In the last video, we started to explore figure drawing with 3D pen, which can be quite challenging if you are just starting out. Therefore, it's best approached in small steps. So let's take another few baby steps. In part 1, we started with the basic stick figure and updated it into a posable mannequin which represented not only gesture of our intended pose, but also eventually serves as an armature for our finished piece. If you missed it, the link for part 1 is in the description. In this video, I wanted to share an alternative way of starting a figure, and that is the 3-line method. I know what you're thinking. What do you mean? Our original basic stick guy had 5 lines and you were just saying that wasn't enough and added 4 more. So let me explain. The issue is one of these sticks is not like the others. While the others represent more or less straight bones, the spine behaves more like a string of beads than a stick. It looks like a straight line from the front and the back, but if you look at the figure from the profile, the neck curves a bit. Then there is the rib cage, which looks like an egg with the skinny end up, but it's put in at an angle, and the spine follows that. Then there is only the spine for a little while, which is lucky for us because the single line is easy to soften and reshape. And then the pelvis tilts back from that. This curve is very important to get right, because without it, the body will always look kind of flat and stiff, like something is missing. So let's look at our skeleton to see what is really going on. This is the curve we are after. But I will continue on and add on a few parts that will help me build the volume of the pelvis and the rib cage later. Curves with 3D pen in the air are hard, so it's best to make this on a flat surface where it's easy and you can scale it to the size you need. As you can see here, I need to shrink my curve a little for my size of a guy. I am using the cranial unit proportions here. My cranial unit is 1 centimeter, as represented by this wooden bead, which I will also use as the temporary placeholder for my head. Here is where our tilted egg rib cage would fit in. This curve is our first line of the 3-line figure. Besides one curve, I will need 2 plain straight lines, which can also be made on flat surface and with a ruler if you so wish, which allows me to make them several lines thick to be sturdier. I will mark where my joints would fall on my sticks, on my cranial unit proportion chart. More on that in a separate video on proportions. I use a washable marker so I can change my mind if I want to. On the curve, I will just mark the end of the breastbone so I can eventually edit out the part of this curve that is not really there on our skeletons. But for now I need it until the rib cage is finalized. Here are my 3 lines for the 3-line figure. 2 straights and 1 curve. That's it. It's that simple. Now let's build our guy. First I will attach the leg stick to my work surface. Hold till it's cold, about 20 seconds, or it will fall down. This first vertical is your step into the 3rd dimension, and everything follows from here. All you need to know about work surfaces and softening the plastic with your pen is in the first part of the video on starting figures. So check out the link if you need a refresher. It takes about 3 seconds for the plastic to soften after you add each little drop. So be patient and wait until it starts bending easily. After each shaping step, check from all sides to make sure the pose looks balanced and believable. If it doesn't, fix it right away, while it's easy and quick to fix. It gets harder as you get further along. Legs are in, it's time to attach the curve. Now we have only one curve, but it represents both upper and lower torso, which can twist and tilt independently of each other, which is what that little piece of the free spine connecting them is for. So check on your reference pictures, if you are using one, where both parts are facing and tilting, and do it that way. Time to attach the midline of the third stick to the top of the rib cage and pose the arms. May remove the arms again if they get in the way of finishing up the rest of the body, but for now I want to see what the final gesture will look like. There. Hopefully we captured the pose and movement, and now let's build up the 3 large body masses. Starting from the bottom. Pelvis first. It's an awfully complicated bone, so let's focus on what would be the simplified version. 3 important landmarks. The line that connects the hip joints, the bottom of the pelvis is lower than that, and the widest part of the pelvis is above all that. So what I'm looking for is basically a shape of an underwear or bikini bottom. Here I have my hip joints. The pelvis will end lower than that, and these 2 points are the widest part of the pelvis. So here would fall the waistband of the bikini, which would end somewhere here. And from that, we will be able to eventually build the legs. So, how do we translate all that into 3D? We will have to start making some curves in space, which is harder than on a flat surface, so I try to keep it to a minimum. The biggest challenge is if you have to match the curve on the other side. But don't worry, you can correct it if you don't succeed on the first try. Or if you don't succeed multiple times, you can just snip the whole thing off and redo it. So now we'll put the waistband on our bikini. The posture of my guy sagged a little bit while making those 2 curves. So I will correct that first. And also complete this belly button loop, so I can stretch the bikini waistband right over it. And then make the bikini waistband. I will fill it all in a second, but first let's look at the next big body mass, the rib cage. Remember I said the rib cage was like an egg, and that would fit in right here. And then there are also shoulder blades on the back and all kinds of stuff in the corners, like collarbones on the front. If we look at our skeleton, at what's going on there, it all adds up to a box shape. So let's add our rib cage onto our guy. Same deal, curves in space, but only 2 more of them. We can suggest the ribs. Don't have to count them, we are just trying to build up a right amount of volume. It won't show anyway. On the front, I do try to end on the mark where I mark the end of the breastbone. So I can then trim the rest of that curve off that is not really there, so it doesn't get in the way later. This triangle the bottom of the ribs make is a very characteristic anatomical landmark, so you want to get that in right. On the back, you can go all the way down. And now we can finish and fill in the bikini part. Remember, the bottom point of the bikini is a bit lower than the hip joints. The third big body mass would be the head. And for now, I will just use my cranial unit wooden bead placeholder for the head. Heads are a big subject, and we'll need a separate video for that. I will also give my figure feet, so I can temporarily remove it from the work surface to check the balance before I proceed any further. Yay! It stands! If it didn't, now would be time to fix it. So here is the comparison of our gesture drawings / armatures made by the 2 different building methods. You can see the second method makes a way more fluid and correct looking curve of the back, which doesn't mean it's necessarily better method. You will just have to work harder to build up the curve later if you use the posable doll method. I suggest you try both and use the one that feels more comfortable to you. Now we are ready to build the rest of the body, but that will have to be another video. So until next time, go and make something.